Hello, everyone. We can get started. This webinar is being recorded, so as people trickle in, they can watch the playback. My name is Ryan, and I'm the Customer Marketing Manager at Moraware. Thank you for joining us today. This webinar is CounterGo Drawing and Quoting Essentials. On the call today, I'm joined by Amelia and Evan. You can see them in the corner here. Um, Evan is going to kick us off and go through CounterGo, and then we're going to hand it over to Amelia, who is going to walk us through some features that you might not be aware of and also take your questions. Um, so for a few housekeeping matters, this webinar is being recorded, as I said, so you'll be able to watch it on playback. At the bottom of this screen, either on your web browser or if you have the Zoom app, you should see a Q&A icon. You can click on that and you'll have a pop-up window where you can submit questions. So if you'd like to actually start submitting questions now, we can start reviewing those, or if questions come up over the course of the webinar, feel free to enter them there. If we don't get to your question during the call, as long as your name is attached to it, we will follow up with you at the end of the call, but we'll try our best to get through them. On the right side of my slide here, I just had a call out for Moraware support. Our support team is available via phone, email, and video chat Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Pacific time. So just as a reminder, we have unlimited support for Moraware customers. And then at the end of this call, Amelia is actually going to show where you can find all of this information in CounterGo directly. Um, all right, so this is just an overview. We're going over CounterGo today. At Moraware, we do have three products. So we also have Systemize, which is a job scheduling and management tool, and then Inventory, which is a slab and sink inventory tool. We are going to start off with a poll. So throughout this webinar, we might enable some polls that you'll just like see on the screen. So the first one I'll launch is just to get an idea of who's on the call today. We'd like to know like which Moraware products are you currently using? So if you just want to fill that out. So it looks like we're getting like a good mix. A lot of CounterGo, obviously, which makes this very relevant. Some new or evaluating, and then some that are using a couple of our other products. So, oh, sorry, I don't know if are we still here?
Yep.
Okay. I think my power went out for a second. All right. Let's go to this next slide. All right, so let's get started. Evan, I'll have you share your screen and then we can jump into this.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Evan. Thanks for joining us here today. I'll be walking us all through CounterGo. Whether you're brand new to the software or just want a refresher here, the goal is just kind of to take everyone from nothing to a polished, send ready quote in a few minutes. By the end of the walkthrough here, you'll have seen kind of the full workflow, from creating a quote, customizing it, generating the final PDF that you can send off to your customer. So let's do a quick run through and feel free to pop those questions into the chat there. All right. Yeah, my screen showing up okay?
Yep.
Perfect. So this is CounterGo. Right off the bat here, we kind of have a list of all the quotes you sent out over time. So nice way to look back and see who have you quoted and when, maybe who should we follow up with, see if they're ready to buy. Let's go ahead and just create a new one here at the top. So name these whatever you like. You can do standalone if it's just a homeowner, or if it's a contractor, builder, box store, add an account here. So you can kind of organize all your quotes underneath those. The price list here, that's where the magic kind of happens in CounterGo. It's kind of the back end process where you break down, what you want to charge for material, for fabrication, sink installations, edge profiles, basically anything that you factor into pricing. And you can have as many different price lists as you need. Goal being that if you can build that out with the help of our training team, then from then on out, you never have to do any math again. All you have to do is just draw. So pretty straightforward 6-step process here. Step one, we kind of draw out the base design. I'll click and drag a U shape and an island. And then hit each dimension, kind of just adjust it here to whatever you need each length to be. And as we do this, this is going to actively calculate and refine our square footage calculations in the background as we go. And this is fully web-based, so if you ever want to do this on tablets or iPads, works awesome. As long as you're connected to the internet, you can definitely use devices like that in the field. Then we go through and we kind of refine the shape a bit here in step two. So any corner, any edge can build in radius, clip, bump out. All you do is select what you want, type in the radius, and that's going to build that in. And then you can apply that same radius anywhere else you need it. You don't have to charge for those in CounterGo, but if you choose to in your price list, this is automatically going to factor in the pricing for each one of those as you add them in. Step three, we deal with splash and edge. First off, I know waterfalls are in right now, so we're probably doing a lot of those. I'll just build one on the front of the island here. It works the same for mitered edges, but all your sales team or you have to do, type in the height. What the system's going to do is account for that extra square footage of that apron piece here, and we'll see it on the slab layout here in a minute. It's going to do the linear footage mitered edge cut here, and mine also does an installation charge. But that's all a backend process. All your team worries about is the height, and that builds it in here. So we've got a top-down view. It's going to show it right there on the legend in the quote itself. Let's do the same for a splash here in the back. 3, 4, 5-inch splash. Can also do a custom height here in the back. And if it's a more complex design, you can also go to step one and manually draw out that splash if you need to as well. All the other Fs here, that's our finished edges, obviously charged by the linear foot or meter if you're abroad. We're going to select those in step 5 when we get there. But here, maybe we say, hey, this left wall's against a wall. Let's leave it unfinished. Or on the right here, we've got a flat polish appliance edge. Step 4, sinks, cooktop, cutouts. Click anywhere on your countertop. You can just apply a cutout if your customer is supplying the sink, or add in a sink model. You can custom add those, but we'll also help you build in all the different sink models you sell. So you can just select what you need and drop it into place. Same for maybe cooktop cutout here on the island. Customize your dimensions, burners, maybe add a center line on there. Rotate that thing into place. And then what CounterGo is going to do here in step 6, where it's been factoring out all of our dimensions and square footage and everything, it's going to apply a price for the sink model itself, but also whatever you want to charge for each of those cutouts, all the way down to the individual faucet hole if you want. Step 5 here is where we shift gears a little bit to choose product, color, and edge. We have a lot of product lines built in here. These are just the 5 that I turned on for my demo, and you can always custom add more in as you need. For each of those products, a lot of the most common colors are already in here as well. You can also do price groups or levels. And for each of these, you can dictate whether these are priced by the square foot or by the slab. In this case, I'm going to pick something I know is by the slab. Edges, whatever you want to charge by the linear foot here. And expanding this area down here is probably the part a lot of you are most interested in. Let's lay this thing out on slabs. So you can see from the square footage, CounterGo assumed we need 2 slabs, but this is where we kind of prove it. So we move our pieces around till everything's green so it fits. You can see our 6-inch splash there at the top and our waterfall piece over here. Looks like it all fits, but as we know, sometimes there's movement, sometimes there's veining. So if you want, you can click the dimensions over here. You can always resize the slab, but if you have a photo of the material you want to use, pop that image over the top here. You can actually see what that looks like here. Now, keep in mind, this isn't going to, replace a slab smith, and it's not going to plug into any machinery or anything like that. But when we look and see our waterfall here is not really matching up to the veining on the island, maybe we rotate that piece and watch the image update and move things around as needed. Maybe add seams anywhere you need on here. They'll snap to those corners as well. And similarly, those pieces that have been cut, now we can move those wherever we need them. This is meant to be used largely for the sales process. So in those instances where the customer comes in and says, hey, we know the square footage, we know this will fit on 2 slabs, you can show them, hey, yeah, maybe physically. But if you want this thing to actually look good in your house for the next 40 years, this is why you guys might want to spring for another slab. And while we've been running through this whole process, and you do get pretty fast at it if you're not talking the whole time like I am, step 6 has been doing all our math. Now, off the bat, you don't have to show all of this detail to your client. This is kind of your back end view to make sure everything looks right. Here's all our square footages, our linear footages, our details. The underlying numbers are your pricing from that price list that are automatically factored in here now. And you have flexibility. So click any of those underlying numbers, adjust price here on the fly if you need to, and that's automatically going to override it for just this quote, but not permanently on that price list. You can also add in other items wherever you need. So if you want to do demo, tear out, delivery, these are just my examples, but we can help you build in other items if you like. And you can break these out by different rooms or areas if you'd like. Now, let's take a quick look at what an end result quote can look like. This is a pretty common customer-facing quote here. Obviously, you'd have your own logo, your own details. I included the drawing here. I kept the details a little more simple on the quote. I'm not showing all the square footage. I'm just showing the subtotals here by area. You can show line item pricing if you want, whatever you want. We can help you customize this out. And down here, I've got some basic contract terms, but again, whatever you like, we'll help you build this all out. Could be several pages of contract terms if you like. And you do always have the option of emailing this directly to your client. What's nice is every time they click and open that quote, you can see how many times did they view it, when was the last time they looked at it. And when they inevitably come back with you, want some changes, easy. Hit that edit button right there, drops you right back into the drawing, change any of the steps along the way. This is automatically going to refactor the calculations and the pricing, and you can save and make a note about your revision. This logs every version you've ever done. So if they want to see this 10 different ways and say, hey, I liked it the first way, just go back and pick the first one. You don't have to start all over again. And last things are, this does connect with QuickBooks. If you happen to use QuickBooks, that works in a pretty cool way. And yeah, we've got our onboarders to help you when you start with the software, and unlimited training for the duration of your subscription. So we're happy to help you guys with any of the elements of setting up the price list, learning how to draw, getting this all in place. And yeah, that's kind of covers the basics, the most common workflow that most teams use kind of day to day. Now, Amelia has been watching the chat. She's going to jump in, show you some more advanced features that people often overlook, and answer a few of your questions.
Hi, everyone. I've been watching the chat and we've had some great questions come through. I'm going to go ahead and share my test database to go over a few additional drawing things that come up and a few of those questions that we got popped in there. So I'm going to just share my screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, can you guys see that? And I'm on my drawing page just in a test quote. You guys see that?
Yes. Sorry.
Perfect. Okay,
Yes,
thank you. Sorry. Sorry. All right. So a few of the things that, Evan went through a really great demo of kind of those general kind of easy kitchens, but sometimes there are more difficult kitchens. One of the things that you can do, maybe you have a bat wing on a countertop or some angles that you need to apply. Whenever you draw an L shape, you'll see this angle in the corner. You can click on that to add angles. And then you can always rotate these pieces to be able to manipulate that countertop even further. Maybe we got something wild over here, just as an option. Another thing that Evan brought up was backsplashes. And we had a really great question about kind of a full height backsplash and whether you can quote with it or without it. Another question that just came in, can we customize these angles? No, we cannot customize these angles. They are set in here. Again, CounterGo is meant to be able to quote quickly. So it's not AutoCAD. It's not going to give you those maybe exact, but it's able to get you close to where you should be able to get that quote out. But we will pass along that feedback as well to our product team. That's always great feedback that we love hearing. So for full height backsplash, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And the way that I zoom in is I can put my mouse over that countertop and I just use the little roller on my mouse and I can actually zoom in right on that piece. I'm going to zoom in down here a little bit to be a little easier to look at. So for a backsplash, let's say we got a full height backsplash on here where stove's going to be, and then we have maybe a 5-inch backsplash on either side of that stove. I'm going to come over here to step number 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a bump out. This allows me to then later segment this edge to give it different height backsplash. For the bump out, I'm going to put a depth in that's you won't be able to tell. So I'm going to do 0.01 and then we'll say it's 30. In the backsplash, you can also change your angles. We don't need it for this instance. And you can also change your position. Say it's maybe 9 inches from the left. And that will put that bump out or bump in on either side of where you're kind of designating it. For this again, though, I'm going to go with centered. Hit save. So now you can see I've added a bump out, but you can't tell it's there. Then when we come over to step number 3, splash and edge, what I can do here is I can segment this edge. And now this has cut that piece into 3 different areas. So here I can do my 5-inch splash on either side. And then right in the middle, I can choose my other splash to maybe it's an 18-inch splash. Now that's one way you can do the backsplash if you have segmented splashes for, let's say, a stove here. The other option is if we come back into step number 1 and we have a piece that here's our countertop, and then we actually want to draw out that countertop. Let's say I'll say 153, and I'm not going to get exact on my measurements because again, this is just to kind of show you some of those additional things. If I go back to step number 2, again, I'm going to use that bump out tool. And here we'll say maybe it's 30 by 30, just a big splash right in the middle. So here I can then use my text to label this as backsplash. One thing to note, and again, I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit more in step number 1. If you notice, I have that gray area pointing where that backsplash is. When you draw out a backsplash or any countertop where you're using a bump in or a bump out, it's going to charge for the the wastage of the square footage in these areas. So that is something to keep in mind when you are deciding on what's the best way to draw out these pieces. And then one of those questions was being able to quote both backsplashes, so with a backsplash and without a backsplash. And in that, we can use areas. So I'm going to just get rid of my little tool and come over here to step number 5. And for this one, I'm only going to focus on, let's say, I'm going to add an area. So in my area 1, let's say I want to just add this backsplash. And then here I can even rename this to say backsplash, where this is our countertop area, and then this is just quoting out that backsplash separately. Now, one thing to note is when you do it this way, in step number 6, it is still, and I didn't choose my products. Let me do that real quick. I'll choose an edge. That way, step number 6 looks better. So now here in step number 6, we can see this backsplash broken out from the rest of the countertop areas. Now, you do have to note that it does still pull into the total amount, but if you're showing subtotals, you can always add a note on to your quote to say, you can add a text item, maybe you're saying backsplash option or something, and spelled that wrong, but just to let people know that this is going to be an option, and if they take it off, then it would remove from that total price. There is not a way to remove that from the total price itself. Let's see, another great question that we had was drawing an oval. So again, I'm gonna zoom in and I'm gonna reset my zoom. Oh, nope, I'm gonna zoom in and I'm gonna come to this pan. And I'm gonna move this just down a little bit so we have kind of a fresh space. For this area, we talked about wanting to draw an oval. So to draw an oval, let's see, where are we? There we go. Draw an oval. First, I'm going to start out with a circle because that's just, it's a little easier for me. And I'm going to say 30 and 30. So to draw a circle, you can come over here to step number 2, curves and bump outs. Click on this corner, and I'm going to do a radius, and I'll do half that measurement. And then I'll just apply that measurement to each side. And this is how you can get a circle. Now, again, we can see these arrows pointing around here for the square shape. So it's including the square footage of the material around that circle. To make an oval, maybe we just change this to 45. And you can kind of create that oval bit. If you're doing a bar top, where you're kind of creating that oval around, 2 options. If we come over here and we draw out a piece, we can come over to here to step number 2, curves and bump outs. And we can do a bump in arc. This is going to be our top part, and I'm going to put it for the measurement of that whole piece. And then we'll say 50. Oh, sorry. Got those mixed up. So that was 113. And that's probably a wild number. Let's go 30 and hit save. So here we can have kind of that arc. And what we would do is the same thing on this side. So we're going to do another bump in arc. So we'll do that as 30. And that was 113. Whoops. Gosh, that wasn't correct. Sorry, guys. I'm going to just hit that undo button. Whenever you make a mistake like that, easy thing to do is just click that undo button. And then we can change that. Do that bump in arc. 30 by 113. Hit save. Now, this one might look a little funky with these edges here. There's no way to adjust that. And again, we're charging for this entire square footage. Another option, and a way that I've been kind of going about these a little bit more often, is actually creating a drawing where I'm going to draw out kind of like a snake shape. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to kind of go around here, and I'm just going to make a few of these options. Here, I can start putting in my angles. Maybe it's actually going to be, we're going to do a large curve. Again, this is going to look wild for a moment, so bear with me. I'm going to scooch it over here. And again, anytime that you guys have a question on a drawing, you can always email it in to support. We love kind of taking these and figuring out what might be the best way to sort them out. And I can change this measurement to, let's say, 30. And I'll hit save and next and do 30 for each of these. And we can start to see that we're getting a little bit more of a curved shape. Again, I'm going to zoom in on this. The other option you can then do is come in here. Now, again, this is a little time consuming, so you might not want to go through this whole thing. If this isn't kind of what you're getting at, you might say this gets us close enough. I like to say make sure you get the square footage to what you want to calculate for your quote and that you're covered, and then you can focus on the drawing. So there is ways that you can kind of manipulate it a little further to, maybe that's actually going to be a radius of 30, to kind of get that shape a little closer to what you're trying to recreate. Again, kind of quick options on different ways and more kind of tricky drawings that you can do in CounterGo. And then are there any other questions that you guys saw that we want to take a look at?
Yeah, Amelia, we have about 5 minutes. So I was
Okay.
wondering, there's one just about like doing quotes for just like larger, just like more rooms, like larger areas.
Yeah. So one thing you'll notice here is that this, let's say this is kind of getting to be a bigger drawing, and we can come in here and we can continue to kind of draw. You'll notice I'm kind of I'm drawing from the top down. And what that's going to do is when you print out this quote form, it's going to expand the drawing page rather than if I was drawing all the way over here. This is going to condense that drawing page to incorporate all of these countertops. I'm just going to do those. Another cool thing you can do is you can add page breaks. This can really help for those large drawings. So maybe there's going to be a page break there, and I'm just going to add a few more random countertops. And then let's add another page break here. So what you can do when you add that page break and then hit save is you can separate that up into the drawing so that you're able to see these pictures a lot easier. So when I come over here and I come to my quote with large drawing again, because that's going to be the biggest space to see, and I print this, cancel, sorry, and I print this, there we go. On that drawing, you can now see how this big quote has now been able to actually see those pieces a little bit better. Another thing you can do in CounterGo, as well as the page breaks, is let's say this is an apartment building. And for this area 1, maybe we have 12 units of this exact apartment. You can, rather than drawing out each of those 12 units, you can use quantities to say, oh, well, we have, this was 105 square feet, but we have 12 of these. So that was for 1. If I hit save, now that multiplied that 112 square feet by that 12 to get us the total price for those 12 units. One thing to note with doing it this way is you do the layout step number 1 for the 1 unit you drew, and it's going to then multiply how many slabs you'll need for the units. But so you're not laying out each of those 12 units, you're just laying out the 1 unit.
Great. I think that, and this is maybe just kind of a common question that comes up, but maybe this is a good time to show them if they have, if they'd like to kind of talk to support or like walk through like an area that they need some help on, where they can find that in CounterGo.
Yeah, great question. So you always have support for as long as you have our products. So if you ever click on this help icon over on the left, this takes you to our knowledge base. And you can also email us from this page. Again, if you have a quote that you're trying to recreate in CounterGo, send us a picture of it. We're happy to take a stab at it and get back to you on how we were able to recreate it or what's possible in the system. You can also schedule a call here. This is to get one-on-one support with our team. And then if you ever call in and we need to share screens, we can join a meeting here. And then from our website, if you're ever interested in CounterGo or any of our other software, you can go to moraware.com and schedule a demo right from this page to take a look at any of our other products and to talk with our sales team.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, both Evan and Amelia, for walking us through this today. If you do have any other questions, I think Evan did drop into like one of the questions, like a link to support, but you can also find it in CounterGo. And then we will send out, excuse me, a recap that includes some helpful links as well as the recording of this video so that you can watch. There's going to be a survey at the end. So if you have some suggestions, there's also a poll question that I just like enabled for future topics that you'd like to walk through, maybe even some specific areas that you're looking for help on. That would really help us in determining what we share with you next. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.